Vampire: The Eternal Struggle is a card game in which you take on the role of an ancient vampire. For thousands of years, you have lurked in the shadows of human societies, manipulating mortals and younger vampires. Your hunger for power knows no bounds, and you use whatever means possible to weaken your enemies. From subtle mischief to frontal assault, you must increase your influence and destroy the other vampires one by one before they destroy you.
Hi everybody, my name is Harry Jacobs and I am the North of 60 Gamer, and welcome. Today we are looking at just a bit of a rambling and organizational video of Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. I've sleeved the cards. I talk about some of the cards in this video. It's a rather short video. Just to give you an introduction, the last one we looked at sort of the unboxing, and this one dives a little deeper, and the next one is going to dive into the setup and a little bit more into how this game plays, and we're going to move through this part by part in a series of short videos. This is part 2. So join me down at the table. So I'm here organizing Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, and there are quite a number of cards, and I am a compulsive sleever, as you may or may not know, and so I am sleeving the cards. But I had a thought, and what I'm going to do is we're going to set up a series of decks, and I think what I'm going to do is pare down the basic decks into about 60 cards, and then pull out some of the more advanced cards and just teach the basics of the game over a period of a number of videos. One of the things I saw out in the video world, or as content creators, is there's lots of people playing the game, but nobody's really concentrating on teaching the game. And it's overwhelming, or it was, as I'm starting to look at cards now and relate back to the rules, and there's a couple websites. I'm starting to get a feel for how this game actually works, because it is not something I have ever seen before. And even with, as Richard Garfield said at the beginning, there's some streamlined stuff, like there's no mana to put down, so you don't have to put lands down. There's the idea of you're perpetually pulling cards from the deck. You play a card, pick a card up. So there's none of that, okay, it's my turn, I'm going to fill my hand up. You can go until you want to stop, basically. You want to churn your deck because you want to get those cards. And so we're going to go through it, and we're going to go through it in sort of, I hope, in a way that makes sense. So what we're going to do is probably talk about the setup a little bit from a perspective of one player. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the cards and talk about the crypt, and then maybe do a quick sort of example of turning, what you're doing on a turn, and then we're going to start talking about the cards. Unlike Magic, where, there was when I played Magic years ago, there was like a book this hard that had every card in it and what you could, what you couldn't do. I haven't found that for Vampire. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I'm trying to figure out, what does this really, really mean? Once you start understanding the terminology, which is different, like lock and unlock, okay? Well, that's because they call it lock and unlock because Magic the Gathering actually registered the word tap. So in playing a game, you can't say I can tap and untap because that's specific to Magic. So, but we're going to learn that terminology, and we're going to teach you the anatomy of cards, and we're going to look at cards close. We're going to look at the way it plays. I'm just interested in this game. I think there's some fabulous potential up here. Nobody plays it, and hopefully when we get into a space, I'm going to bring this probably next week maybe, and see if I can introduce it to some Magic players perhaps. I have a feeling that Magic players are Magic players, but maybe this is an alternative, something that somebody would play because they'd rather have this theme than Magic the Gathering. This is not a Magic killer. It would have killed it years ago. This game's been around for 28 years. So, believe it or not, and it's been through it's on its third owner, who is supporting this, and there's actually a pre-order going now for on 401 Games for some new expansions that are coming. So we're gonna dive in. So I'm going to go back to my sleeving, and hopefully when we're all done, we'll start that series. So while I'm sleeving, I might as well take a moment and take a look at some cards here. So let's take a look at a vampire card. And here is Lloyd Brooks. And he is from the Tremere clan. And there's different clans. There's the Toreadors, the Ventru, Nosferatu, there's the Bruja. And so if we look at the card, 6 is the number of blood that he will take from the pool to put into play. And so we'll talk more about the crypt. So cards come in this way. Then they get turned by accruing influence. And the influence comes from the pool of the Methuselah, in other words, me, and they will put them on 4 at a time, and when they reach 6, they can turn it over. If we look at the card closely, this is the set that it comes from, and that is the introduction set, base set. This is the symbol for the Tremere. And along the side is some text here, or I should say down here is the text, and this is a Camarilla Primogen. Now there's a little number here, and it's the number 6. And so you could have a dual deck as long as you have contiguous numbers of 2 consecutive. So you could have 6-5 or 6-7 if it exists, or other 6s. So you can control those, and you can steal other vampires from other factions. There are ways in the card. Here are basically his skills. So minions work on skills, and we'll explain more about the skills. But if you're in a square, it's a basic skill, and if they're in a diamond, it's a advanced skill. If we look at the cards here, we have 2 different vampires, and we have Nasser. You can see he's 6 and he's a 4. This is the older vampire. This is the younger vampire. So as I've finished doing the crypt, I'm working on our library. And the library cards represent the broader world of darkness. And so, actually, I'm still got some crypt cards, actually. I'm still doing crypt cards. So as we go through this, let's get down to, here we are. So here is a crypt card, or library card. And you can see it's a 44 Magnum. So you can see this is equipment. There's no prerequisite other than to drain 2 of your pool, which means from Methuselah's pool to put this into play. You can strike 2R damage with 1 optional maneuver each combat. So this is 2 range damage. And there is the idea of a range, and we'll talk more about in combat. So here is another one in our library, and you can see that it actually is a Tremaine card, because you can see you have to be Tremaine to have this specific card. This is the Academic Hunting Ground, and it's a unique location. So when you have a unique location, there can only be 1 in play. You can have as many as you want in your deck, but you can only have 1 in play at any one time. And here you can see very much that here's your squares down here. This is a combat card, and this one tells you that you have to have this star, which I don't understand all these yet, but we're going to get a closer look when we start looking at how this game actually plays. But this is a combat card. So if you have combat, press only usable to continue combat, and then you can maneuver. So I assume when you maneuver, I'm going to have to look up that keyword, because it is a keyword. That means you probably can go close or long range. Anyway, so we're just going to continue on until I sleeve these cards. But that's kind of a basic overview of, we have crypt cards, which are vampires, and you can have 12 of them. And you can have library cards, which represents the broader world of darkness. And you can have between 60 and 90. You can have as many copies as you want, keeping in mind that when you play, you're going to have 1 type of the same card in play at any one time. And I believe with the unique cards, and I'll have to look that up, you could probably only have 1 of those in your deck. 1 of those in your deck. But I'll have to look that up. Oh, and by the way, that took me about 3 days to figure just this basic stuff out. So this is not for the faint of heart. This is not for a beginner player. If you're looking for kids to play, Magic certainly you can play. There's Pokemon, Digiman. There's a few of these games. I love Pokemon. Very, very simple to play. You can teach an 8-year-old to play. As long as he can read and read iconology, they're ready to go. Anyway, if I find anything more interesting, I'll pop this up. This will be one little mini video. As I continue the sleeving process, and you can see I've got 4 out of the 5 decks done, I'm reminded that there are some differences between this edition and the previous editions, and the cards are slightly different, especially when you're looking at where the iconology is here along this strip. The previous edition does not have that. Has the same iconology, just in a different place and a little smaller. So when looking at the older cards, and now I can only do that online because I don't have any older cards at this point, the cards do match more or less, but they have different colors, different art to some extent, and of course the iconology is in a different spot. It's over here. So just keep that in mind, that having a previous edition's cards is perfectly good. Now, if you're playing in a tournament, and there are tournament rules, and I'm trying to get a hold of the tournament rules a bit, I am been in touch with Black Chantry, and they are monitoring my channel and are going to help me out here a little bit. So keep an eye out. I'm hoping that they may send me some preview cards of the new sets that are going to be out in the fall. There's 3 or 4 sets that are coming out, and of course they're reprints, right? And I think there's some new original work coming out as well. So keep that in mind for the fall. I know 401 Games has it on pre-order at the moment. I don't believe they're out until September or October, so they're still a month or 2 away. And I don't think it's going to be any issue getting these, though I can tell you that some of these 5th edition stuff is drying up, getting harder to find. So right now, and it's not a cheap investment, not the starter set anyway. I mean, the decks aren't that bad. I mean, they're not bad considering the size of the decks, and they are somewhat collectible, like Magic. Not as valuable, but I think the most expensive card I think I saw out on eBay was about $100. So keeping in mind that it is a collectible game, and you may wish to buy previous editions, which is fine. They do have a banned card list. They do have a banned card list as well. I guess if you're doing tournaments and whatnot, and you want to keep things, I guess, competitive between people, as opposed to Magic, where if you play one of those legacy tournaments and they start throwing out boxes, and you're going like, oh my God, you guys got a $20,000 deck. I don't think you're going to get a $20,000 deck here in Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. I'm still working through the rules. Things are becoming clearer. I think I have a methodology to teach this. We're going to go slowly over the rules. The first thing we're going to address is just the basic setup of the game, how many cards, what your area looks like, sort of some of the concepts of the prey and the predator, and then we will look at cards and we'll look at different scenarios and how that all works. So bear with me. My name is Harry Jacobs. I am the North of 60 Gamer. Welcome. Please, if you'd like to learn more about Vampire: The Eternal Struggle and any other game I do, please subscribe, like, it's greatly appreciated. Make some comments down below if you like what we're doing, if you want to see more. If you have questions, please post them there. I do answer. I will get the Discord channel and some links to some various materials for you in the comments, and away we go with Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. We'll also be looking at Vampire: The Masquerade Rivals, but I think we're going to address this one first. So off we go, and I need coffee. So we will talk to you in the next video where we'll talk about this setup. And just to finish off this organizational masterpiece, I have put these other decks in the car in the box here along with those. I'm trying to replace those with blood tokens. I may do that. Maple Source from Maple Source. I did look. It would cost me about $30 or $40, but I would be able to get 80 to 100 of those blood tokens. And here it is, the final product in a carrying case with the explanations on the outside, so people can take a look and say, hey, what is this deck all about? Kind of fascinating with the Gangrel deck, and we may look at that as part of one of the decks that we might look at. I'm going to look and see which deck is the easiest. The two easiest decks, I will pare some of them down. Most of them are 88 cards, including, basically you're getting 12 vampires or crypt cards and about 87 to 88 library cards. So there's 100 cards. I think what I'll do is go through and maybe pare those down to 60, so they're more standard, 60 decks and no more than 4 copies except for unique kind of Magic rules. There's no mana involved, and this is one of the things that Richard Garfield, of course, tried to streamline some of the play by getting rid of the mana requirements. Everybody basically can play vampires. You just have to influence them to join you. And that's during the influence phase, where you'll be able to put 4 influence on them. When you have enough influence, it becomes blood. The blood comes from your pool, from your Methuselah's pool, and then your vampire can act, such as block, attack, play actions. The vampires do that. The Methuselah does have master cards, and we'll talk more about that when we look at the decks. So this is what is going on, and we're going to talk to you later. I'll talk to you in a heartbeat.